Hello, welcome to The Point of View. The Point of View is your favorite current affairs program on television. On The Point of View, we select the right topic, we choose a relevant guest, and we ask the right questions. And at the end of the day, we leave you with some useful insights. Tonight on the program, for the past 5 or 6 days, the ECG has been having some issues with its meters. And I'm sure a lot of you watching us tonight have had your fair share of the troubles. You've been unable to purchase power. And if you're not lucky and you had just a few units on your meter, then I'm sure you would have been plunged into darkness. The ECG says that largely about 95% of the problem has been solved. But we want to take a step back and ask, what was the problem? How have they solved it? And are we sure that this is not going to happen again? You can join the discussion via WhatsApp on 055-0585-832, and we'll read your comments to the rest of the world. It is A Point of View, live on Facebook as well. You need to call a friend, to tell a friend that we are live. I will return shortly, introduce my guests, and we'll have the discussion underway. Don't go away. You're welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight, we're looking at the ECG and its metering problems and what the ECG boss, Samuel Dubik Mahama, Esquire, has been saying about the problem. He says that he doesn't feel sabotaged at all. That was in response to a question from the press, whether he feels sabotaged. And of course, when matters like this happen, a lot of matters are thrown about. He says he doesn't feel sabotaged at all, and that they are working and they have tried to resolve the problem mainly. We'll be happy to hear how you dealt with the problem from your end. Did you do illegal connection? How did you go through it? The WhatsApp line is 055-0585-832. My guest tonight, Adomako Kusi Apia, who is director of CATS International. CATS International deals a lot with consumer protection and everything that has to do with consumer rights. We also have Ali Simon Jarana, who is head of external relations from the PURC. He joins us on Zoom for this very important discussion. My name is Selom Adunu, sitting in for a regular host, Bernard Avle. So we get a discussion underway. But in the meantime, today, the ECG addressed a press conference, at which conference the management of that important organization said that they had dealt with the issues largely. This is a short report put together by Citi News' Fred, who covered the event and put this together.
The technical challenge that wrecked ECG's network escalated so quickly. The situation started with one customer not able to purchase prepaid credit. Vendors were not left out of the frustration, while business owners started feeling uneasy to meet customer expectations as their primary source of power failed to activate. From one press statement to the other, the power distributor apologized to his customers and assured of his commitment to fix the challenge. Many customers thronged the various offices of ECG across the country seeking answers for the past days. At a press conference on October 3, 2022, the Managing Director of Electricity Company of Ghana, Samuel Dubik Mahama, apologized for the inconvenience caused to their customers. He assured Ghanaians of the company's resolve to bounce back to full-scale operation by close of day.
I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to all customers of the Electricity Company of Ghana who attempted to purchase power and were not able to purchase power. The company admits its faults. The company admits that it was not able to deliver on a service. But the company also at this point would like to let all its customers know that most vending stations are up and running. I use the word most because we still have some few challenges in the Ashanti region that we are working on, and hopefully by close of day today it will be resolved. We also want to tell our cherished customers that all those who have a problem should use their redress channels through PURC and see us, and then we'll handle it on a case-by-case basis. Anybody whose power comes up and they have a problem can visit our nearest customer service office with their last purchase receipt, and then we would go through and do the necessary reconciliation. We'd like to thank all of them for their patience. We'd like to thank them for their belief in the company through these trying times. The company has gone through something that is still coming out of, and we just need some time. And we believe we've managed it very well within the time frame and within how we have reacted And this has shown how resilient the company is, how well resourced and how well staffed the company is. And we want the good people of Ghana who enjoy our service to know that we shall continue to serve them and do our best to give them the quality service that they deserve and they need.
Some people, including the Member of Parliament for Ningu Prampram, Sam George, perceived the situation to be a sabotage and a system hack to make the MD unpopular. Mr. Mahama discounted the assertion, saying there was no evidence to suggest same.
To be very honest, I cannot confirm or deny whether it was a hack. All I can say is that it's led to the necessary investigations for us to do the right thing and to make sure that the right things are established for the good people of Ghana. On a lighter note about the Sam George situation, I really don't want to say much about it because he's a well-respected man and he has his views, and I know I don't really want to speak to it. That it makes it a bit difficult for me.
In relation to revenue loss, as far as the over 1 week system breakdown might have caused the company, Mr. Mahama indicated that it will be made known when the system swings back to full operation. He cautioned customers who took advantage of the situation to connect power illegally to reverse their meters to normal connection before the task force gets them. On the issue of compensation, Mr. Mahama said not all customers will receive it. He explained why.
I'll then treat everybody that the system is up and running now. So if you've done anything of such, please call the person who did it for you and return and reverse it. Because right after all of this, we will go back and embark on our illegal connection, campaign, and make sure that everybody does right by the company. Come, bring your receipts to the nearest customer service center, and we'll do a reconciliation and we'll fix the problem. As to the compensations, I said it will be managed on a case-by-case basis because we cannot do it across board because every situation is peculiar to every individual.
All right, so you heard that report by Citi News' Fred Duho that had the managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana trying to explain the situation away. He says that we are out of the woods, almost. 95% out of the woods. My guest this evening, Adomako Kusi-Appiah, Director, CAS International, Ali Simon Jarana, Head of External Relations of the PURC. The PURC is the regulator for public utilities in Ghana. Mr. Kusi-Appiah, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Very interesting times you were in. ECG customers have money, but they are unable to buy power. When did you hear about this, and what's your whole thinking about the whole situation?
So I heard of it last week, Tuesday, when a cousin called me that they had run out of credit, but they wanted to go and buy power, and they were told that their meter had to be reconfigured before they could buy their power. And they ran an agrochemical and veterinary shop, so they needed to have the electricity on so that the basins that they have will not get destroyed. So it was a bit of a concern. Then later in the day, I saw a release from ECG talking about some technical challenges. The following morning, the news went viral that some categories of prepaid users are going through challenges and that ECG was attempting to resolve it. And I was getting disturbed because there are some kind of businesses that need to have the electricity running 24/7. And the way the system for electricity connection in this country is such that it's a binary. Either you are on prepaid or postpaid. You can't have the two. And for most users of electricity in the Greater Accra, Ashanti, Western, and other regions, especially those in the big cities, they are those who are on the prepaid. And for them, whenever they go off the grid for some time, it becomes very, very destructive for whatever that they are doing.
I see. So I know you've done some checks and some works. What's your reading of what the cause of the problem is?
ECG is the first point of the information. They are referring to as a technical glitch. And there's also another school of thought. And last Saturday, the Daily Graphic carried a front page banner headline saying that cyber security threat, cyber fear at ECG, which was also the question mark. And Honorable Sam George also raised the same thing. But so far, it is only the institution of ECG that says that it can neither deny nor confirm. But for me, I'm very much worried because if it's a cyber attack on their system, they should first admit it. That would also allow the state institutions to be able to do the investigation and also compel other strategic installations that we have in this country. They also have to that will also compel them to upgrade their security architecture such that we will not visit ECG 2.0, where we get another strategic asset also going into the hands.
Suffering from a similar attack, if indeed it was a cyber attack. But of course, if it were a cyber attack, the relevant state institutions will know. Indeed, the managing director, in addressing the press, said that they informed national security because the ECG is a national security installation, so he says, and that anything that happens to the ECG is of national security importance, and so they inform national security so they could also carry out their investigation. So the relevant bodies would know. ECG may not necessarily have to tell them that we think or it is a cyber attack or not. They will tell them what it is. Maybe it's what they tell the public that will be different. So I'm not sure whether the relevant state institutions will be as clueless as we are in respect of the problem. They would have told them what it is. Maybe their communication to the public is what they are managing.
But, we have this data protection. Though ECG doesn't sell data, they sell electricity. However, they have data from consumers. And there is a provision in Data Protection Act that says that if you hold people's data and their data is breached, there is the mandate on you to inform all the data subject that there has been a breach. Sometimes you go online and you receive an email from Google that your password was found online. So they recommend that you change your password. They are doing all these things to prevent you from further secondary or tertiary damage. Indeed, if ECG is hacked, it is not new thing. Last year, for example, in the US, they had one of their oil installation was hacked by some bad guys from Middle East. And as soon as they found out that, they reported and they also announced, and everybody became alert of it. When such thing happens, you don't tell the truth different way. You need to say to everybody that, look, we fear that we suspect that we've been hacked. Whilst the National Security and the National Cyber Security Authority are doing their investigation, we want to assure the public that your information has not gone into the public hands.
Now, what information does ECG have? They just distribute power. They sell power. What information do they have that will be will be subject of data hacking, as it were?
So every meter has the house residential address and also the level of your consumption. And so if a bad guy wants to, let's say they get access to the consumption data for some neighborhood, and they want to know which person is the richest person in that neighborhood, by looking at the meter reading, which house is buying more power, that could also put an indication that, look, the rich man must be living in this house, because looking at everybody is within the lifeline tariff bracket, but this person is way an outlier. And that can also, the bad guys can use that data to be able to pinpoint wherever their target will be. So I think ECG has, if actually the thing is a data hacking or data breach, they have to inform the public so that the right measures are taken to prevent people from being harmed.
But the managing director says he's not sure. He could not deny or confirm. But if it's a system hack or the system is being hacked, won't it be obvious to a person like the managing director who holds all information regarding the ECG to know that it's been hacked or not? Didn't you expect him to be more categorical in answering that question, that no, the system wasn't hacked, or yes, the system was hacked?
I think the managing director is trying to be evasive. And I know very well that ECG has information security management. And those guys are cyber guys. So anything about a breach on their system, those guys have got the technical and intellectual acumen to be able to know that they have been hacked. And if they have been hacked, the first person they will tell is the manager. The manager, MD, please, there has been attempted or we've been hacked. So for the manager to say that we cannot confirm or deny, for me, it's a clear admission that the ECG has been hacked.
I see that. That's interesting. But what is important is that they say they have almost solved the problem. And so there was this talk about compensation, because people say their perishables have gone bad, cold stores, etc. They've lost money because their goods have gone bad. Chobas, have also lost a lot, and somebody must pay for it. I'm not sure the consumer must bear that cost. Compensation, is it the right thing to do at this moment? That's what people are calling for. Indeed, the ECG boss answered that question. He says, yes, compensation should be dealt with on case-by-case basis. So they'll look at your case, and indeed, it's a PURC that will do that. As a complaint system, they'll take your complaint, analyze it, and if ECG has to pay you some compensation, they do that. I don't know how they'll pay. I'm sure they will credit some units to your meter. That surely should be the way to go.
Yes, and I know that whenever a company like ECG is in the business of providing services, you should be able to allocate some amount of money whenever you are planning to pay for compensations. And that's what most businesses do. And looking at what has happened, a lot of businesses have suffered losses. And it will be very, very unfair to allow those people who have suffered the losses to post the losses onto their books. At least ECG, but for ECG action, they would not have suffered the losses. So I think that there should be some level of compensation. But the problem that we must also avoid is the whole scale or universal compensation. Because if we end up giving ECG money to pay compensations across the country, ECG will not have the necessary funds to invest in its infrastructure, and ECG money is not meant for what? The right usage of ECG resources is not for the payment of what? So that is why sometimes when you go to court on these issues, public policy rationale may overrule the legal issues and say, look, you may be right, but then if we start paying over, let's say, 50 million or 100 million losses, the ECG can go bust. And for that reason, the court may allow for a limited amount of compensation. But ECG should not also hide behind the fact that when everybody comes for their pound of the flesh of the compensation, there may be some level of defense protection for them. When you are in a business, if you look at the ECG Act, it says that it can sue and be sued. So you are a legal entity. Mm-hmm. Yes. But one way that we can also look at this is that in most countries, they have kind of allow competition in the retail end of the electricity supply. In Ghana and in most Africa, you have this natural monopoly. So ECG is the natural monopoly when it comes to supply of electricity to residential household.
In the southern sector?
In the southern sector. If there were to be some competitors in the system, perhaps those competitors would have invested. Let's take, for example, the telecom sectors. Before MTN came, there was Vodafone, the then Ghana Telecom and Mobitel. But we've seen how the last has become first. All through competition, investment. MTN has invested a lot of resources. That is why the market has tipped to their side. Vodafone and Airtel Tigo are not doing that much. But so the market rewards hardworking, innovation, and foresight. The question we ask ourselves, because ECG has no firm to benchmark its service delivery with, they are kind of what? Lackadaisical approach. Let me give you my typical example. About 3 months ago, I changed my meter and I had about 280 CDs on the old meter. So they asked me to go to the office for them to credit onto the new meter. I went there, I filled a form. I don't know whether they still require my presence there again before the form will go to the next step. And I've decided that I'll not go there and I'll wait for 1 year to see whether the ECG system on its own structures will be able to credit my account for me. So
you are still waiting?
I'm still waiting. And all because they are not facing competition in the if let's take the telecom sector again.
But in the case of the ECG, it cuts both ways, doesn't it? If you have to make them, if they have to be competitive, then we must pay competitive rates. In fact, they asked for some huge increment. We only ended up giving them 27.15%. They said that is not enough for them to run properly. So because it's a public good and because of the nature of the service they provide, governments feel it's important that they intervene more or less. So if we want them to run competitively, let's allow them to charge competitive rates then. So it's difficult even bringing in other players because, I don't even know how the market is going to be because ECG doesn't take competitive rates. And so the others may not even survive because everybody will gravitate towards ECG because that will be cheaper. If you were to make them pay or charge us competitively, then you can demand some of these things from them. But as we speak, they want like 300 or 200%. We only give them less than 10% of what they want. They can't even break even with that.
I would not necessarily agree with you. ECG made a request to PURC. And let us know that it's a supply chain from the providers, the IPPs, the Kosombos, and the BUI through the GridCo. Everybody has a share of the margin. So ECG comes in at the distribution end. So you can allow some level of competition within the market. And let me tell you that economists will tell you that when there is a competition, it leads to what? Proper utilization of resources. Because, for example, if we have 3 or 4 competitors within the retail in the distribution sector, and company A says that, look, we will charge 1 cent for, let's say, 20 kilowatts. Company B says, I will charge 50 cents. Because company 1 is charging lower, it puts competitive pressure on those who want to charge higher tariffs, because people will shift to your side, the one who is charging the lowest. So allow firms to come in. ECG would rather have to sit down and say, look, our operation cost is too much. We need to cut waste so that we can sell we can reduce our cost of operation and sell it cheaper. Because now ECG has nobody to benchmark itself with. Technical losses is high, administrative losses also high. But if another competitor has, let's say, 2% technical losses, 5% administrative losses, and ECG is hovering around 20%, I've forgotten the exact figure.
27.55.
Yes.
They got here.
That will tell you that ECG will need to do more because there's nobody to benchmark itself with, consumers are paying for the inefficiencies within the ECG system. It is very sorry to use my word, absurd, that some ECG says that it can't go to some areas to collect utility bills because they fear for their life.
But that's a fact, right? I mean, if people are attacking them,
then you must disconnect. Disconnect those who are not willing, because this is it's a service. Because
but they did that, and the whole public was on them.
They have to do it by case. You can't disconnect the whole community.
But they said their system is intertwined, and so they cannot do it that way, given the nature of that particular problem.
No, I think we sat here on the 10th of August to discuss this issue. The issue is that when you apply for electricity, you apply as an individual. You don't apply as the whole community. So if somebody may want electricity, others may not want it. For those who want it, give it to them. Those who don't want to pay it, just disconnect them. And then life must go on for those who are ready.
I see. So we'll take a quick break. We've been discussing the ECG, its metering crisis or difficulties, and the fact that they say it's been solved. If you have power now because you've been able to buy power from the vendors, let's know if indeed the problem has been solved. You can do that by joining the conversation on 055-058-5832, Let's know what the situation where you are is, whether now you have access to, you can buy power or ECG units, as we call them, whether the app is also working. I use the app, but as of this morning, it wasn't working. I don't know if it's working now. Let's know what the situation at your end is. We'll take a quick break, return, and possibly bring in the PURC and see what they also have to say about this problem. Don't go away. You're welcome back to the point of view. We are looking at the ECG's handling of the metering crisis that we are in. The boss says that has been solved mostly, but quite a number of people sending WhatsApp messages to this program say that they still have the problem. This one from Woja says, ECG is not telling the true state of the existing devastation we are going through as customers. As of now and this evening, I still cannot access the app to purchase credit. This from Woja Botiano. This one says, good evening, I'm Joel from Nsawam. The ECG claim they have resolved the issue, but I don't think it's true, or it's all true. As I speak with you now, I'm in darkness. I went to the office today and they told me the same old story. They said the network has not come. Still has not come still, and I'm in shock why they keep deceiving us, and the issue has been resolved. They say about 95% of it has been resolved. Maybe you are part of the 5%. Good evening. Please, the matter still persists at Konongo in the Ashanti region. It's getting frustrating. This one says, I live at Domipila 2. All vendors can't sell to those of us using the card. They are only able to sell to those using the smart meters. They keep deceiving the public that the problem is solved. This one says, I'm a vendor who runs 24/7 ECG. I would like to set the record straight. It's not true that the system is back working. Well, the boss says that the system is back working. Maybe you need to restart your system and see if it will work. It says about 95%. I'm not sure if all of you fall within that 5% group. Mr. Kusiapia, ECG says it's been solved largely. These are customers sending us real-time messages saying that the problem is not really being solved. What do you make of ECG's response to customers on this matter? I think they were quite responsive. I don't know what you think. They issued statements here and there to tell us that they are having difficulties, assuring us that they will solve the problem soon, etc., etc. It might not have been solved fully, but what do you make of their response to the crisis?
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give ECG 4 out of 10.
But that's fail.
Yes, because whenever you run into such a crisis, you need to deploy your crisis management whilst trying to solve the problem in-house. You need to know that your customers are also facing outside. Mm-hmm. What did ECG do? I mean, just releasing messages. I mean, ECG could have gone to communities or some strategic areas where people need electricity to provide an alternative means of access to them whilst trying to resolve it.
But to be fair, normally they don't work on weekends, but all district offices of the ECG worked over the weekend last week. In Sound, for example, they served over 1,000 people, and many other places. So that is that not some responsiveness, some indication that there's a problem, and so we must put our act together and respond in a manner that is not usual of us?
Yes. Coming to work on Saturdays was a normal. There was no, it would not have made sense for ECG to close on Friday and then resume work on Monday in this particular crisis period. Look at the SIM registrations. The mobile telecos were working during the mobile SIM registrations to make sure that whoever wanted to register could get registered. So if you do that, you have not done anything that we should give you an A+ on of that. It was just a normal thing for ECG to have done. But for me, I would say that their crisis management was very poor. They could have done better in terms of information and providing support to people who needed, essential services that have been curtailed because of this power outage. ECG was just only thinking about itself, and I think that is where they could have gone to. There are some generators. Students are writing examinations, and they need electricity. ECG could have gone to rent.
How many generators would they have rented for the whole country?
I'm coming. On a surgical basis, not universal. Do you get it?
So ECG should be going around
the community
I'm talking to see where they need power and
critical needs.
And rent generators for them.
You could have done it.
How feasible was that going to be?
No. I'm not saying universal, but then let's say students are writing papers the following morning. They need access for electricity.
But take a secondary school, for example. How many generators can power the classrooms, at least for students to study?
When people are using light to study, they don't consume that much. Because
I'm saying that how many generators will be used? Look at the number of secondary schools you have in the country.
You can't do much. But
and it means that you have to procure generators. Look at the time it takes for such procurement.
What I'm talking about, there are private renters companies. I'm just using this one as an example. Mm-hmm. There are things that UCG could have done to let consumers know that they care about them. Do you get it? So that, look, just you go to the schools, students are writing exams the following morning, they don't have access to electricity. UCG has brought us this whilst the problem is being resolved. Maybe people need cold water and other things. These are parts that. These are the soft things.
But the crisis is just a few days old, like 5 or 6 days old.
No, but
and they have been focused on getting it solved.
No, solving it is, you don't need all the ECG staff in the country to solve the problem. The thing needs to be solved at a central location, and then the others will be able to connect. Do you get it? There are people in the other ECG regional offices and district offices who could have done the legwork in trying to, understand people and provide some level of support, emergency support to them. That this from ECG, please. We know you don't have light, but at least this is even a candle. You can. I'm just using. Nobody want to use a candle today, but at least ECG. All that they were thinking about is what getting the system back so that they can. At least they could have done something beyond trying to fix their IT problem.
So the ripple effects of this problem, we saw within the last few days a number of people bypassing the meter to connect directly to the source, maybe illegal connections. Some of them said that it was done by ECG staff for them. I don't know whether ECG as a body sanctioned those connections. If they sanctioned them, then it may not be illegal after all. What do you make of that? Do you think ECG sanctioned them, or they were just done by people with knowledge in electrical? So they come to your house, you give them some money, and then they connect you directly to the source, so it doesn't have to pass through the meter. Because after all, it's not my fault that I don't have power. I have money ready to buy it. You have not done your homework well. You have been unable to provide. So I must get power at all costs. So I connect directly to the source. It doesn't pass through the meter. ECG loses.
Yes, I think the law that defines theft or stealing has not changed since 1960 when Act 29 was passed by Ghana's parliament. And so if you take power without paying for it, you are hot.
You are stealing.
You are stealing. But maybe a judge may look at the mitigation, the circumstances that caused you to do that. I would not have done that. Those who did that, I can also not fault them because I myself, I don't know how I can survive without electricity for a day or two. But if you did that, please, in an interest of Mother Ghana, as the ECG MD said, you have to restore it back to the default position, because once they get you, the law will not have any mercy for you.
So to be fair, this new ECG boss, I mean, took office with a lot of energy, going around, ensuring that persons who have connected illegally to power, I mean, were dealt with and all of that. And a few weeks into that, we have this. And then now a lot of people have gone back to connect illegally. It appears that a lot of the gains is made have been eroded by this current situation. How should ECG be solving this? Should they be just appealing to people, or they must deploy people to go into the communities? And how much or how many people would they need to do such a job? Because now even kiosks and even small places have all, done this illegal connection.
Yes. I think most people were pushed to the wall. Businesses needed to survive.
Just for 3, 4, 5 days?
Yes. So if you had a cold store, you know that when you want to go to court or PURC, it may take you a year or two to get your compensation. By the time you get your compensation, the cedi has depreciated to the extent that you cannot even buy how much you lost. And so people decided to help themselves. But notwithstanding, I don't endorse what people did, but if you took advantage of the dark hours of the ECG to connect yourself, bypassing the meter, I think you have to ask the electrician who did it to come and put you back onto the meter. But I think there's also some of the new meters, even if you bypass it, to still read negative. So as soon as you buy your credit, ECG will be able to get their money.
So on the new meters, if you bypass it, but how will it know? How will it detect that?
Now technology, don't underestimate, technology. Yes.
I see. All right, so now, remedy for customers. I mean, compensation, you said you were not sure, it should not be wholesale, like what the ECG man also said, the ECG boss also said. What becomes the role of the regulator in all of this? The regulator is the one with whom complaints will be lodged, and they will make a determination whether you are deserving of compensation or not. What should be the role of the regulator? Should the regulator be calling the ECG to book or seeking to understand the problem? What should be the role of the regulator in all of this?
So,
and will you attribute this to inefficiencies at the ECG, or this is just an accident which could have happened at any time and to anybody?
So the questions are, let me start with the role of the regulator.
Yes.
So the PRC, and I'm very sure that PRC will ask ECG to submit its report of what happened. PRC will study it, and if it is not satisfied, they would also allow maybe a third-party consultant to also investigate. And once PRC finds out that the ECG did not put in the right measures that caused those glitches, PRC under its act has the right to put a fine on ECG. So we've seen in the past whereby ECG has paid a lot of fines to the PURC.
ECG that is struggling for money will have to be fined again.
Yes, because that is the only, you can't go and, PURC cannot sack the ECG MD. They can't go and slap anybody there. The only thing that they can do is that they can fine you, or whenever you bring request for tariff increase, sometimes they may also not be willing to even approve that. But coming to the ECG, as to the question whether the ECG did, okay, coming back to the compensation again, the compensation PURC under the its Act is, giving the right to what? Receive complaint of consumers, and then after hearing both sides, it can award its judgment. It's more like a alternative dispute resolution. So anybody, if you feel that you've suffered losses, you have the right to go to put your petition into writing to PURC at the regional offices, and then PURC will investigate it. And if you have anything to show the losses, you can't say, oh, I had these items and they have spoiled and they have thrown them into the garbage. For evidence, they need to see whatever you are claiming as a loss so that it can be quantified for the purpose of what? Compensation. So if you are a consumer and if you lost anything, please make sure that you have evidence of whatever thing that's losses that you have suffered. If PURC, if you are not satisfied with PURC, the law gives you can also go to the High Court to also, proceed to the High Court to, take ECG on. And I know that I believe in our judicial system because this kind of crisis, everybody, a friend, the judge or the judge knew somebody who was affected. So when this thing gets to the court, I'm sure that the court will dispense justice with this matter. One thing that I want to say is that we also need to use this as a lesson for all state institutions that are using strategic installations. So we are talking of ECG, we are talking of water. For Ghana water, because electricity is something that you cannot store, you can't store electrical power because it's very expensive to store power. But for water, we all have boreholes or we all have poly tanks, so we can store water whenever the taps are flowing. But we need to be very careful. Now the bad guys have gone ahead of the good guys. And we need to be very careful and deploy all measures. And unfortunately, in this country, whenever we are planning, we only look at the best case scenario. The best case scenario is when everything is fine. So
I'll come back to you so you take us through what you mean by worst case scenario. I'm sure that's where you're going. So that maybe we can put in place in our analysis, we look at worst case scenario as well. We'll take a quick break. I will read 2 of your messages. When I come back, I'll read some more. We'll take comments from Mr. Pierre Kusi Apia on the worst case scenario, and we'll look at the way forward, and then we can conclude for today. Samuel Boachi in Kumasi says ECG should be truthful. The problem persists in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. This one says, if in 2022 ECG cannot devise means to disconnect homes which are not paying bills remotely, then we are doomed. When your prepaid credit finishes, your neighbor's lights don't go off. So there's definitely a way to deal with non-payment and bring sanity and revenue to the state. How can a monopolistic entity of essential goods be making losses? How, you ask? This one from Eugene says, I went to my place in Tema, the main ECG office, the queue. Most people couldn't get at the end of the day, but you could see plenty protocols and favoritism. Hey, Ghana. And very sad for being Ghanaian. One man lamented. Well, your message is understood. Well, so we'll get back and talk some more on these matters. And Mr. Kusi Apia will share some of his suggestions for us going forward. Don't go away. You're welcome back to the point of view. I'll take a few of your messages that you've been sending to us. Some of you are not happy at all about the present situation. Alaji Bawa says, ECG says the old alpha type of meter has never been able to be fixed. So nobody with that type of meter must continue to be without power. till thy kingdom come. I happen to be in that category and I can't get power. This one says, I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing over increment in electricity tariffs because the increment is over 27%. It's over 50%. In fact, mine is exactly 62.5%. I need answers. Hello, I am Ni from Ngwa. I have been following your discussion. I want to make the following contribution. The problem with ECG's management is not because they enjoy monopoly. It is that they are not being allowed to work independently, just like any government institution. 2, I also agree the crisis management could have been far better than what was done. They could have stayed 24 hours throughout the crisis. Okay. Joyce says, please, is postpaid existing and who are supposed to use it? Please, yes, you said, okay, so you said you are Joy from Bantama. Salam, the unfortunate situation is the PURC is in bed with ECG, so if you complain to the PURC, nothing is done about it. This Clement from Lashibi. Nana AC from Takrady says, I have not been able to purchase lights for the past 1 year. I mean, my lights don't go off. I've reported to them. No, your point is not quite clear. You said your lights don't go off. I've not been able to purchase lights for the past 1 year. I mean, my light doesn't go off. I've reported to their office, God knows how many times, and they always tell me they will get back to me. They've collected my meter number and my name. Up to now, it has not been done. This one says, good evening. My name is Sevan Gosfield from La Paz. The ECG app is not working. Well, a lot of you are saying it's not working. Can we hear from those whose problems have been resolved, at least? Because the ECG board says 95% of the problem has been resolved. Can we have some of you tell us whether your problem your problem has actually been resolved? All right, so you're talking about the worst case scenario. So you said we plan using the best case scenario, which you think is not proper. What should be the worst case scenario? How should we be planning for that?
So if you are into service delivery, you need to have contingency measures to contain worst case scenarios. Mm-hmm. And in most situations, you do a stress test of your systems to ensure that whenever you are stressed beyond measure, you'll be able to withstand that. And so this particular crisis should be a lesson for all government institutions, all service providers, that they should have their crisis management system in place. They must also have redundancies. Redundancies mean, I try to use the aeronautics engineering. Whenever aeroplane is being designed, for every part, every component, it may have 3 or 4 parts. Such that if component A goes off, the component B kicks in. And then if B goes off, C kicks in. It is possible that within the 40-year active life of the plane, none of the secondary components will ever kick in. The reason is that when an airplane is in the skies and there's a problem and there's nothing to support and a component goes off, it may bring the airplane down.
Yes.
So for that reason, the
redundancies are important.
Very
well. So what lessons, assuming this were a cyber security matter, we don't know now because the boss says he could not confirm or deny that, which is interesting. Assuming this were a cybersecurity matter, what lessons should we be drawing from that?
So I think the National Cybersecurity Authority needs to ask all of such institutions to come up with their security measures and run a stress test on it to see whether it can survive attack. And this cybersecurity, you need to always be updating because every day the bad guys are moving further from where they were yesterday. And so the National Cybersecurity Authority has got a big work to do to ensure that, especially, let's take, for example, Ghana Water Company. Let's take, for example, even the banks. Let's take, for example, even MTN Momo. If MTN Momo goes off a day, a lot of people will die because a lot of people, their livelihood depends on how they receiving Momo from one person or the other. So all these institutions need to upgrade their security architecture so that the bad guys will not. And I think national cyber security, and national security should also be interested in all these things so that we don't run the country into a pandemonium because service provider has been hacked one way or the other.
Very well. So I know you've also been strong on this SIM re-registration thing. I mean, before you go, just in 30 seconds, what is the status now? Has the Stubborn Academy won over the ministry? It's past 30th September. Yes. What's the status? Have SIM cards which have not re-registered been disconnected? Just quickly.
Not as at this moment, when I check, there are a lot of unregistered SIM cards that are still in the system. But I think the ministry is here to give an official release somewhere this week. But if you have not registered your SIM card and there's an app to do so, you have no excuse to do so. Of course,
don't have Ghana card. If
you don't have a Ghana card, that's an issue. And I think that we need to resolve the Ghana card issue. That is why we have said that if it's possible, the deadline should be shifted to 31st of December so that to allow Ghana card.
That's on the assumption that NIA will be able to provide everybody with Ghana card. And until that is done, we can't punish anybody because it may not be their fault, right?
Yes.
All right. So this is how we conclude today's edition of our program. My guest has been Adomaku Kusiapia, who is a director at CATS International. CATS International is a consumer advocacy and protection institution, and they are not happy with how ECG has managed the situation so far. They feel that at least the crisis management could have been better, and they think we need redundancies in the system to help in times like this. My name is Selom Adunu. Thanks so much for watching. Keep watching Citi TV. It's a well.
The Point of View is brought to you by Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it. Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Kel Charcoal. Happy smile.